Good morning. We are continuing with chapter D in the Bible. We have learned about the monarchy, a political system in which supreme power, sovereignty is held by a single person. Anointing is to dedicate to the service of God. Mourning is to feel or express sorrow or grief. Wisdom is knowing how to live out what is true, right, and just. So we learned in the beginning about how the people wanted that earthly king. They wanted a human king. They didn't want just God as their king. They wanted somebody that they could see like the other nations. Even though they're human and they're going to make mistakes, they didn't care about that warning God gave them. Then we learned how David was anointed king. King Saul was a bad king. So God anointed David. So we left off with David was working for King Saul. As we go into today's section, David becomes king, and we are going to learn about David's sin. God saw into David's heart, and that it was a pure heart, and he had the right intentions, but he is human. And humans do make mistakes. They do sin. So as we read this section, we're going to put a little clarifier on this. And we're going to remind ourselves that this is the Bible. It is a holy book. And the stories in the Bible are not for us to be laughing at or making fun of or getting all giggly. We're going to take this as a serious book, and we're going to take it seriously. There are things in the Bible that are more adult content, but it's the Bible, and we need to be able to, we're in 6th grade now. We should be able to handle reading certain words and being okay with it. Okay, certain topics we're going to kind of skim over a little bit, but we're going to understand that this is the Bible, and we're not going to make an issue out of it. If we have a hard time, if we're talking about it later, if we're joking about it, if we're giggling about it, then I'll have to have Father Zarin or Father Zip come in and talk to us about the seriousness of the Bible and how we are supposed to be learning from the Bible, not being all goofy silly about the Bible. So we're going to talk about what we learn from this passage. So we will talk about the moral that we're learning from it, but we're going to make sure, can you put it on the back table? Thank you. We're going to make sure that we're not going to be silly about the content that we're reading, because it is the Bible and it is a serious holy book. So with that being said, we are going to turn to the second book of Samuel. We had been reading in the first book of Samuel. Now we're in the second book of Samuel, chapter 11. So 2 Samuel, chapter 11. What? I meant 11. I make mistakes too. I was going fast. All right. So it is chapter 11. I might have accidentally put 16. Hopefully I put the right one on Google Classroom. I will have to double check to make sure that I have the right one on Google Classroom. So if you're one of my friends reading from home, we are reading chapter 11 about David's sin. So 2 Samuel chapter 11. At the turn of the year, the time when kings go to war, remember I said David is now king. David sent out Joab along with his officers and all Israel, and they laid waste the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah. David himself remained in Jerusalem, so he sent out his army, but he didn't go with them. One evening, David rose from his bed and strolled about on the roof of the king's house. From the roof, he saw a woman bathing. She was very beautiful. David sent people to inquire about the woman and was told, "She is Bathsheba, daughter of Eliam and wife of Uriah the Hittite, Joab's armor bearer." So she's married to Uriah. Then David sent messengers and took her. When she came to him, he took her to bed at a time when she was just purified after her period, and she returned to her house. But the woman had become pregnant. She sent a message to inform David, "I am pregnant." So David sent a message to Joab, "Send me Uriah the Hittite." So her husband, David asked him how Joab was, and how the army was, and how the war was going, and Uriah answered that all was well. David then said to Uriah, "Go down to your house and bathe your feet." Uriah left the king's house, and a portion from the king's table was sent after him. But Uriah slept at the entrance of the king's house with the other officers of his lord, and did not go down to his own house. David was told, "Uriah has not gone down to his house." So he said to Uriah, "Have you not come from a journey? Why then did you not go down to your house?" Uriah answered David, "The ark and Israel and Judah are staying in tents, and my lord Joab and my lord's servants are encamped in the open field. Can I go home to eat and to drink and to sleep with my wife? As the Lord lives with you, as the Lord lives and as you live, I will do no such thing. I'm not going to leave the army to go home to my wife. I'm going to stay with the army." Then David said to Uriah, "Stay here today also, and tomorrow I will send you back." So Uriah stayed in Jerusalem that day. On the following day, David summoned him, and he ate and drank with David, who got him drunk. But in the evening he went out to sleep on his bed among his lord's servants. It did not go down to his house. The next morning, David wrote a letter to Joab, which he sent by Uriah. This is what he wrote in the letter: "Place Uriah up front, where the fighting is fierce. Then pull back and leave him to be struck down dead." So what is it that David is wanting to happen? He's liking Bathsheba. He's in love with Bathsheba, but she's married to Uriah. So now what is he doing to Uriah, Katie?
He's trying to get the Uriah to be in the front of all the people fighting in the war, but everybody else is going to pull back, and then Uriah will be killed.
And so then what would happen if Uriah dies? What's going to happen for David, Paisley? Then Bathsheba's not going to have a husband anymore, so David will be able to marry Bathsheba.
And that's his sin.
Oh, why would that be a sin? Let's keep reading, and then we're going to talk about why that's a sin. So, while Joab was besieging the city, he assigned Uriah to a place where he knew the defenders were strong. When the men of the city made a sortie against Joab, some officers of David's army fell, and Uriah the Hittite also died. Then Joab sent David a report of all the details of the battle, instructing the messenger, "When you have finished giving the king all the details of the battle, the king may become angry and say to you, 'Why did you go near the city to fight? Did you not know that they would shoot from the wall above? Who killed Amalek, son of Jerubbaal? Was it not a woman who threw a millstone down on him from the wall above, so that he died in Thebez? Why did you go near the wall?' Then you are in turn to say, 'Your servant Uriah the Hittite is also dead.'" So he's saying, this is what the king wanted. So don't let the king get angry that we went up by the wall, even though we knew it was bad military strategy. We knew we would be attacked, but we did it because you told me to put Uriah up front. So make sure the king knows that Uriah died, and that's what he wanted to happen. The messenger set out, and on his arrival, he reported to David everything Joab had sent him to tell. He told David, "The men had the advantage over us and came out into the open against us, but we pushed them back to the entrance of the city gate. Then the archers shot at your servants from the wall above, and some of the king's servants died, and your servant Uriah the Hittite is also dead." David said to the messenger, "This is what you shall say to Joab. Do not let this be a great evil in your sight, for the sword devours now here and now there. Strengthen your attack on the city and destroy it. Encourage him." So make sure he knows I'm not mad at him, to keep trying. I know that it happened. Keep trying and take the city. When the wife of Uriah heard that her husband had died, she mourned her lord. But once the mourning was over, David went for her and brought her into his house. She became his wife and bore him a son. But in the sight of the Lord, what David had done was evil. Did David kill Uriah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did David kill Uriah? No, but did David set up everything so Uriah would die? Yeah, that is the sin. He did something purposely that he knew something bad would happen, but he would benefit from it. So in our lives, being in middle school, we're not going to be setting somebody up to die, but there are things that you need to think about the choices that you're making. Are you doing something or not doing something? So something bad happens to someone else and something good will happen to you? Or are you looking out for other people's best interest? So you need to always wonder, something good happened for me. Did I do anything wrong to make that happen? Usually the answer is no. But sometimes people are like, I know that person is doing something wrong. Maybe they're doing the math work wrong, and you know that they're doing the math work wrong, but we don't point it out to them. We don't help them because we want to get a better score than they got. We didn't do anything wrong, right? You didn't tell them to do it incorrectly, but you didn't help them. You knew that something bad was happening, that they were getting it wrong, but you didn't help them. You didn't say, "Oh, you're doing it wrong. That's not the equation you're supposed to use," or "You're understanding it wrong." You wanted to benefit from it. You wanted to feel smarter than them, and you wanted them to get a bad score. That's where the sin comes in. So when we look at our questions, putting things in order, okay, that's where we don't want to get silly and giggly about the order of things. The words that they use aren't quite the same words that we read in the Bible. So if we look at A, that what happened at the beginning. Well, that's yeah. So he sees Bathsheba, and then he brings Bathsheba into his house. Okay, so I'm helping you out with the beginning. So C, he sees Bathsheba, and then A, he brings Bathsheba to his house, and that's when he's not being a stand-up, upright guy, right? Then you have to figure out, so I gave you 1 and 2. Look for B, D, and E. What happens third? What happens fourth? What happens fifth? So I'm helping us out with the beginning. C, he saw the woman taking a bath and he falls in love with her. Then he brings the woman Bathsheba to his house. Then figure out which ones are 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So with that, we're going to say goodbye to our friends that are listening at home. We hope you are well, and we hope to see you soon.